Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to a really quick sped up reading wrap up for this week. I have a very small amount of time to film this, so I have to keep it brief. I'm headed out on a day trip to the botanical gardens right after doing this. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also a little bit groggy. I did not sleep well last night. It rained a lot and I kept waking up. So I'm not completely all here yet. It'll take me a few hours to get up to speed. But what I read this past week, I finally finished A Record of a Spaceborn Few by Becky Chambers, which is the third book in her Wayfarers universe. This is not really third in a series. I think you have to read it after the first book, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, but you don't need to have read the second book, A Closed and Common Orbit, before this at all, in my opinion. This follows various people who live in the Exodon fleet, which is the human spaceship fleet that left Earth and has kind of been on its own for hundreds of years. And I think it's really about community and where you come from, where you belong, where choosing to leave the home of your people, choosing to go back to where your ancestors came from, but really about community and what makes you all kind of stick together, the traditions that you uphold and stuff. I thought that the themes of this book and the kind of the major tragic event that kicks off a lot of it were really touching. So I love what this book was about. I really disliked the way in which it was told, however. There are many perspectives and the chapters are very short and quick and they switch rapidly between the people. And it is telling the same story, the same events, the same bit of time through all these people's eyes. But I found it was really choppy. It was like going down a road and just hitting all the bumps wrong so you get thrown out of the story periodically. It was not the smoothest way to tell the story, I think, and I think that really dragged it down. I wanted to give this book 4 stars, but I was so dissatisfied with the structure of it, I ended up giving it 3. I think with some tinkering, this would have made a beautiful mosaic novel structured similarly to something like China Mountain Zhang by Maureen McHugh, which is one of my favorite mosaic novels I've ever read, so. But you know, it is what it is, not an actual mosaic novel. After that, I read The Buying of Lot 37 and Who's a Good Boy by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. These are the season 3 and season 4 script books for the Welcome to Night Vale podcast. So it is literally just collections of the scripts for each episode and for the live show that was touring in each year. But there are really great introductions to every single episode by the writers, by the voice actors and such, that gives you a lot of behind the scenes information about what the creators' favorite bits are and like the genesis of a lot of the characters and ideas and little bits like selections for the traffic and stuff like that. Where did those come from? What inspired them? And I really love knowing more about that. I really enjoyed both of these. I am a huge fan of Welcome to Night Vale. After that, I read the selected poems of Robert Frost in the really pretty illustrated edition. This did not actually live up to my expectations. I was familiar with some of the really famous poems by Robert Frost, things like The Road Not Taken and After Apple Picking, Fire and Ice, you know, all the ones that you end up reading in school because Robert Frost is a really famous American poet. But actually, a lot of the poetry in this particular collection, at least, was nothing like that. A lot of the poems were actually really long dialogues, and I got kind of tired in the second half of the collection. It just didn't turn out to really be that interesting to me. I enjoyed rereading the famous poems, but that was kind of it, so. But hey, I know more about Robert Frost now. After that, I continued my mini Shakespeare binge with Henry V, which is one of the historical plays. It's basically all about glorifying war and the English trying to get lands away from the French and hoorah and all that. I'm terrible explaining what Shakespeare's plays are about and picking them apart and interpreting them. I leave that to Libby. That's why I watch her Bard Book Club videos. I think actually Henry V is the play for May, so I am looking forward to whatever Libby has to say about it in her video. But this was really good. I really enjoyed it. It has a lot of speeches and rousing statements and good lines to quote, and it was great actually. And as is usual when I'm reading pretty much any play by Shakespeare, I tend to just, go Google and Wikipedia all the people mentioned and try to figure out, what actually happened versus how the events are portrayed in the play and everything. So it was a good time, and I've already continued on with Henry VI Part 1, and I can already tell it's not as good as Henry V, which was written much later. But anyway, the last thing that I finished was just last night, and that was The Fifth Gender by Gail Carriger. This is her newest book that's actually published under her G.L. Carriger pen name, which I think is the pen name that she publishes her more explicit, romance-heavy work that is not related at all to her Parasol Protectorate universe. I think this is actually the first book I've read by her under her G.L. Carriger pen name. I have the Sue Mage Solution, but I haven't read it yet. Anyway, The Fifth Gender is a really different type of book from anything I've read by Carriger before, and I think it's kind of the launch of a new universe that she may write more in the future. And I say it's really different from what she's written before, not because it's really heavy, pretty sexually explicit romance, but it is a space romance. This is science fiction with aliens on a space station mashed up with like romance. And I thought it was really fun. The only thing that didn't jive so well with me is that it's almost aggressively cute. I mean, that's really on brand for Carriger. I enjoy all of her work so much because it is frequently unabashedly queer, like this book is, very queer. But also, I think she's really committed to having her books be fun. She's not about all the tension and the angst and the bad things happening. She's gonna give you a really fluffy, cute romance with a happily ever after, and that's what I want from Carriger. And that's completely what The Fifth Gender actually delivers. The main character is Triss. Triss is a very lavender alien with tentacle-like hair. Very cheerful and happy, and also promiscuous and flirty alien. He's Galloy. Galloy as a species are actually very xenophobic and isolationist, but Triss is a Ziga, which is explained more, but he is one of the extremely few Galloy who have actually left the planet, and he's basically in exile. And everyone really likes Triss. He's, let's say, extremely extroverted in a fun way. Triss has a major crush on a human man, a detective on the station named Dre, and at the beginning they are mutually attracted to each other, but they've convinced themselves that the other one isn't really compatible with them or isn't interested in them. However, they pretty quickly overcome these differences when they are kind of thrown together and they realize that mutual attraction, and it gets hot and heavy. And they end up having to investigate the potential murder of a Galloy on a Galloy spaceship. And yeah, so you have a murder mystery investigation and a lot of alien sex as well. And it's, like I said, aggressively cute. And I think it's the super touchy-feely, sappy stuff that I wasn't really into, but everything else was good. So I enjoyed this one. I will totally read more in this universe. And I think that an alien like Triss is really interesting main character for a romance, basically. Somebody walking by my house. Anyway, that is everything that I read this past week, a lot of good stuff. And now I am off to the botanical gardens. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll be back soon, and until then, bye.